Well, welcome to the third Saturday in October show. We are here once again to talk about tailgating for the rest of us in the SEC. I am Alabama Chris, and alongside me is somebody that's hard to recognize. Who is that over there? Is that Tennessee Bradley?
Is it Halloween? You know, am I the mask? I'm an anonymous Tennessee fan. If you're just listening to the podcast, you're missing out. My brown paper sack. But yeah, we are the SEC Tailgate podcast for the rest of us. So find us on social media at TSIOPod on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Go to Third Saturday in October to join our virtual tailgate that happens this week at 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock on Saturday night. Sign up for it on thirdsaturday.inoctober.com. You can also get our Tailgating 101 cheat sheet and not do our picks. We'll get to why you can't do your picks this week. But Chris, we've got a full slate today.
You know, and not the least of which is like me as an intro guy for our show. I try in my head to get it right every time, and you are smooth as butter, baby. But I can't get the SEC tailgating podcast for the rest of us. I don't know what goes on in my brain, but I appreciate that I have a co-host in Tennessee Bradley now who is sackless, bagless on his head, now showing up. But thank you for being able to like draw a through line and a level of professionalism that I can't seem to wrap around in my brain.
A lot of hours practicing. That's really what it's been. You know, since there's no fall camp, we couldn't go through fall camp together. I just had to practice on my own, and it was awfully lonely, but I got through it. So, you know, we talk about games last week. How long should a head coach have before they're fired? The passing of Coach Perkins, may he rest in peace, and our thoughts and prayers go out to his family and loved ones. And also just talk about what's coming up in the SEC. So, Chris, let's talk some football.
Let's get to it, baby. All right, so I don't necessarily want to do this to bring up bad memories or anything, but Florida versus your Tennessee Volunteers. You want to chat about it? Want to chat about the season as a whole, or just looking at that one particular game?
Yeah. Well, that particular game, I actually felt better about this game than a lot of the other Tennessee losses.
Yeah.
No turnovers. Decent QB play.
Yeah.
For the first time that I can remember, no pick six. Just kidding. I think we've had 4 this year. Wow. So about it every other week almost. But I feel like Tennessee did a lot of right things. It's just not quite enough.
You know, I agree with you. I think that the quarterback play from, I think you had 2 quarterbacks in.
Yeah.
Like not perfect, but a good look at what the future of the quarterback position can be at Tennessee. And I think it's, you know, it showed some signs of life that we haven't seen in previous weeks, just because maybe it's just this year, maybe it was just whatever's going on. But I was actually impressed, kind of like what you're saying, with the quarterback play in particular.
Yeah, I was impressed with Harrison Bailey. The commentators on TV were talking about this. He's going through his progressions and getting to his check down, which was often a 4th receiver. So how many true freshmen in their first start? Now, granted, it's what week 9 in the SEC. The 9th game of the season, and he's going through all his checks. 3 of them are covered, so he throws to his 4th receiver, the running back coming out of the backfield. That's pretty awesome. So glad to see that development, because Harrison Bailey was out, I want to say 3 weeks of fall camp, which was, I think there were only 4 weeks. So he didn't get a lot of practice time then. He's been learning on the fly. Then also JT Shrout was in towards the end of the game, looked pretty good. Now, Florida's probably just running a prevent defense, just trying not to give up big plays, but still making throws, putting them where his receivers can catch them. Also, going back to Bailey, he pulled the ball down and ran a couple times when he saw big open spots in the field. He's not a mobile quarterback, although he did seem to run better than Peyton Manning.
I think everybody runs better than Peyton Manning.
Right?
As much as he's one of the greatest quarterbacks that ever took a snap. I mean, he's known for not being too mobile in the pocket or getting out on the edge there.
Yeah, but I saw a lot of good stuff from the quarterback position.
Yeah, and I know that we're not all about stats here, but just looking at one that I see right here, JT Shrout, 12 of 14.
Yeah,
that's pretty good. And again, not having a lot of experience back there. And again, like you're saying, I think that he had a touchdown throw as well.
Yeah.
So maybe Florida was backing up and just kind of keeping the game in their hands, so to speak, and letting them throw a little bit more. But 12 of 15, you go back in the locker room and having suited up for the Volunteers and you throw 12 of 14 with a touchdown. That's a good start, man.
Yeah. And the freshman, I want to say, was 14 for 21. So again, that's 67% or something like that, I think. That's good.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I felt like it was going to be really tough for Tennessee to keep up with Florida's offense. It was a little baffling how really all season Tennessee hasn't been able to defend the middle. I don't know if that's just because the ineptitude of, is that the right word, of the Tennessee offense.
Yeah.
They just can't stay on the field. So the defense is tired. And after doing that for 8 weeks in the SEC, coming to your 9th game, you're just worn out. Yeah. I don't know. I think the defense has surprised me that it hasn't been better this year. And I'm not quite sure why, with guys who are veterans running the defense. I mean, we've got a true sophomore as our middle linebacker, but he played every game last year. So he's a veteran. He knows what he's doing. I don't know. I think some injuries have probably hurt us, but overall, I was as happy as I could be in a loss. I think I was happy with the progression from where Tennessee's been in its other losses to the loss against Florida, where the players were competing for 60 minutes. So I don't know. I think a lot of Tennessee fans would disagree with me, but so be it.
Yeah. Well, I wonder how much the mental, the headspace takes its toll after right now. What are you? What are the Volunteers? 2-6.
Yeah.
Playing. Arguably,
yeah. 2-6. Sorry, hopefully we're not 2-7 after playing Vandy this week.
Which, just as a side note, it looks like that even though it seems like that Vanderbilt is not going to be able to dress out the 53 players that you can then opt out of a game if you have less than that.
Right.
They're saying now that even though they'll have less than that number, they still plan on playing. So that's a good thing.
I've been impressed with Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
Not laying down, not going all Cumberland against Georgia Tech, saying, you know what, we don't have 53 players, but we're still going to play this game. Mm-hmm. Giving Derek Mason 7 years. I mean, round of applause to Florida. I guess their coaching staff or their administration making the decision to play this week. hopefully gifting Tennessee a win. If Tennessee loses to a Vanderbilt team that doesn't even have 53 scholarship players, I don't know.
Yeah.
But giving Derek Mason 7 years, I like 7 years for kind of a minimum. 5 years, I think, should be the absolute minimum. Let's take Tennessee, for example. Tennessee fans and media alike were saying this is when Butch Jones was fired. This is the worst Tennessee's been in 100 years, maybe ever. How long do you expect it to take in today's college football arena to rebuild a program like that? Definitely longer than 3 years.
Yeah.
I think Alabama was a special case because Nick Saban is a once in a generation type coach.
Sure.
He had great success at LSU, left for the NFL, comes back to Alabama. And I don't know why you wouldn't want to go play for Nick Saban. If I was a college player, I'd probably want to go play for Nick Saban. So on different Facebook groups and stuff, people were saying, what do you think of Jeremy Pruitt? I think he's fine. I was listening to a Sunday morning show. Can't remember if it was this week or last week. And it's a former Tennessee coach and player. And he said, the quarterback has been the big issue this year. There are other issues, but that's the most glaring one. And he said, look, Jim Chaney is a great quarterback mentor. So why don't we get rid of Chris Winkie, our quarterback's coach, and let Jim Chaney not only be offensive coordinator, but coach the quarterbacks. He worked at Tennessee before. When he was at Tennessee, was it Tyler Bray that he had? He was a great college quarterback. Let him run that. That frees up an assistant coach, a coaching position, because right now Pruitt has 6 offensive on the field coaches and only 4, although it may be 3 because he fired one on the defensive side, and then he's on the defensive side. I think he's got to kind of give up a little bit of control in coaching positions. If he still wants to be co-defensive coordinator, fine. Let him. Coaches have been able to be coordinators and be successful.
Right.
But allow that position to go to the defense, help them. Then you got 5 on each side. Sounds great.
I like that idea, though, of like an offensive coordinator also being in charge of the quarterbacks, because that allows, that quarterback is they call quarterback the general of the field when you're out there, because he's having to make all those adjustments and see everything. And so if the same guy is over on the sidelines coordinating the offense, but he knows the ins and the outs of every play that was run in practice and every thought that's probably going through these quarterbacks' heads, it's just that much less distance and knowledge moving back and forth between all the different pieces. So I like that idea.
Well, and I don't know. When Peyton Manning was at Tennessee, David Cutcliffe was his offensive coordinator and QB coach. And they thought alike. They maybe not naturally, but they got to the point where they were thinking alike and could kind of talk in shorthand. The story goes that the naked bootleg against Alabama that Peyton Manning ran, there were 2 people in the world that knew that play was getting called. It wasn't Phil Fulmer. It wasn't anybody on the offensive line. It wasn't the running back. It was just Peyton Manning and David Cutcliffe.
Wow.
Cutcliffe calls it in. Manning knows what to do. He calls a tailback dive, jumping over the line right at the goal line. And I think if you go back and watch the tape, the running back kind of box, like, I don't have the ball. Where is it? And Manning's the only one running on a naked bootleg to his left for a touchdown, or
Wow.
2-point conversion, or I don't know what it was. But you need that kind of relationship. And I think just let it be. Before Jim Chaney was there, maybe we needed somebody like Chris Winkie. But now, I don't know. I think let him go. I've been impressed with the receivers. Now, is their route running great? I don't know. But I really think that they've overproduced, just making some of these catches that shouldn't have been catches, especially earlier in the season. I feel pretty good about the rest of the coaches. I think get a D-line coach, get another coach on the defensive side, let Pruitt step back a little bit, and then let Chaney coach QBs. I think you're set. If that is,
I guess I can see some of the, again, as a fan, I want my team to always be excelling. As an Alabama fan that has an unprecedented amount of success over the last decade or so, I still look and get angry at certain things that I wish that we would have done better. I was one of the ones that we're very close on this show right now, 2 or 3 months ago, that was ready to call for our defensive coordinator's head because how poorly we looked and how inept it seemed that our defense was if we were going to be vying for a national championship. And so
against Ole Miss, it's like how are we having to go toe to toe with Ole Miss?
Exactly,
because our defense can't step up. Yeah,
right. Yeah. So as a fan, I can understand the anger of being in a place that you don't want to be, and I can see the argument for some Tennessee fans calling for Jeremy Pruitt's head, sort of thing. And especially when you look around, not only the college football landscape at large, like the Ohio States and the Clemsons and the Oklahoma Sooners, they have these every year. They're going to get up, at least of late. They're going to get up and they're going to dominate. But then you look inside of the SEC, and you've got Georgia that's now returning to its former glory in the SEC East. You've got Florida that now is potentially another Heisman quarterback and another possible run at a national championship as well. And then you look over in the SEC West, and you have Alabama, who's been there and making people angry for the last decade plus. And then every now and then you have teams like an Auburn or an LSU or even a Texas A&M, who's sitting right now at 5th in the nation, who are making a lot of waves. And as a Tennessee fan, going like, I want us to be there, and I'm angry at everything because we're not, because we have the potential, we have the recruiting, we have this coach that said that they were gonna bring us back to this former glory sort of thing. So I can understand that. But also, if then you get rid of Jeremy Pruitt, one, who else are you going to bring in? And then how long are they going to take to get their system in place?
We're going to get Hugh Freeze.
Yeah. And so it's I understand the frustration today and the recency bias of I want to win today and I'm tired that we're not. But if you then decide to make a change, then you have to go through the process of a coach installing the culture, getting their coaches solidified, and then some coaching changes, and then their recruiting staff. So are you willing to, is Jeremy Pruitt so wrong for that position that you're willing to get rid of him now in just year 3 versus letting him really get his situation set up like you would if, like you're saying, you have a 5-year minimum for a coach to get his culture, his coaches, his players installed to really show you what he can do.
Yeah. I really do think 5 years, if you want to give a coach a good shot, 5 years is what you got to do, because we all know, and especially now with the early signing period, which the first year of the early signing period was the year that that Pruitt was hired as head coach. So his first recruiting class, he's really just trying to find any player that will say yes to him.
I actually remember you and I having conversations about that a few years back.
Yeah. So it's a mad scramble. And then you've got 1 full year to recruit your first real class. And you can't just recruit a player for a year these days. I mean, you got to recruit them for 3 years, 2 years. So that first class even is a little shaky. You can flip some players, that sort of thing, but it's a long process. So if you give a coach 5 years, his first real class will be 4th year players, whether they're redshirt juniors or true seniors. Okay, now he's got all his players on the field. So I think 5 is the minimum to really see any change. I think you got to go 7. And that's why I give props to Vanderbilt for giving Derek Mason 7 years, because, okay, you've had 3 iterations of all your players on the field. And what do you do with them? Yeah. And Derek Mason wasn't able to do a whole lot with them. So they said, okay, we're going to make a change. I think that's a great idea.
You know, and kind of speaking to what we spoke about a few weeks ago with Will Muschamp's firing, that it seems like that South Carolina kind of was in that spot. I forget off the top of my head how many years he was there, but he certainly had enough time to kind of do what we're saying, which is, you know, take 4, 5, 6 years to get all the ducks in a row and see if you can put together some wins. But it didn't seem like that for all of Will Muschamp's strengths over there, that he was able to use those strengths to bring South Carolina a winning percentage that they were comfortable with. So, but now they have a new coach, so we've got to look at, was it Shane Beamer?
Yeah.
Shane,
so this is
Shane.
Interesting. Did he get hired because he's got no head coaching experience, from what I understand? He's a grad assistant in Tennessee. He was a grad assistant somewhere else. And then,
I think at South Carolina as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Then he's been assistants at Oklahoma, Virginia Tech under his dad. I can't remember where else. So he is being hired, much like Jeremy Pruitt was, without head coaching experience.
Yeah.
Did Shane Beamer get hired because of because of his name? Is this a bit like a Shula at an Alabama?
Or Derek Dooley at Tennessee?
Yeah, let's not bring that up. Yeah. Let's hire a lawyer to be a head coach at an SEC institution.
Yeah. Well, you know, it does. That. There is a playbook, it seems now, that if you have a situation where you're going through a tough spot, one of the ways to rally your fans that may not be a long-term coaching hire is to get one of our boys, so to speak, to come, and that people can go, I don't know if he's going to get us winning national championships every year, but I like that guy. He's one of us. And he's gone out in the world and he's learned a lot. Maybe he can bring us something, a likability factor, and the idea of maybe winning some games too. So with like a Derek Dooley or a Mike Shula, that there is a story there tied into that university that then they can go like, hey, look, one of our guys at South Carolina consistently has not really been one to vie for the top spots in the SEC East. But so that means that maybe we can't afford to go and get a Dabo Swinney kind of coach or a Nick Saban kind of guy, you know, whatever that may be. But we can get one of our guys.
How long did Dabo have at Clemson before he actually started winning significantly?
Great point.
So,
and the expectations there were, we believe in you, and we're going to give you time to get your culture instilled so that you can show us what you can do. And maybe the top story in all of college football of give him time, and then let's reap the rewards several years down the road.
Yeah, because if you show allegiance and loyalty to your employees, they're gonna want to do better. So
I think that's part of Dabo's success. If they had canned him early and said, you know what, it's not working out, he may never have won anywhere.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe he would have. But
Maybe it was one of those alchemy things. It was like the right place at the right time with the right staff to give him the right amount of time to really get things going, and see where we go from there. Which, just a quick side note in other coaching news, the guy that coached Alabama just after Bear Bryant, Ray Perkins, he died yesterday. So just as a thought for that, but he had a similar situation to, maybe what we're looking at the Volunteers right now, or, at least in the sense that Philip Fulmer was at Tennessee forever. Like, not that he could do no wrong, but he was very well respected and brought Tennessee a lot of great memories, stories, national championship. If I'm not, he was there in '98, correct?
Yeah. He was head coach in '98. I mean, he had from the mid '90s through the mid 2000s had Tennessee in the best 10-year stretch, maybe ever, with multiple SEC championships and a national championship. And so
one Peyton Manning.
Yeah. And when you have that kind of success, when you've got the success of a Bear Bryant in recent memory, it's going to be really tough for the next coach, the next several coaches to come in, because, okay, that's the standard. But how many Phil Fulmers do you have? How many Nick Sabans? How many Bear Bryants? It's not, the end of his career was kind of tainted, but Joe Paterno had a long career of successful Penn State teams.
It's like kind of the rebound relationship. When you've been with the one and that one gets away, that rebound relationship often, for whatever reason, and this is as a therapist talking, the percentages aren't great for the thing that comes after the one sort of thing. So again, I think that Ray Perkins in his
so second place ain't so bad.
But Ray Perkins was in a situation which was a pretty unenviable spot, to where up to that point they are the Newt Rockneys, a couple of other coaches at Oklahoma or Texas, and then Bear Bryant. Those were kind of like the Mount Rushmore of head coaches up to the early '80s in college football. And then you have Ray Perkins comes in, and I think less than a year after Bear Bryant finishes coaching, he dies as well. And so then you're not only dealing with the recent memory of how well Bear Bryant was able to do, but then you deal with a deity going to sainthood status after he dies, sort of thing, and you got to deal with that too. So you're still the second best coach on your team, even when you are the head coach, because the other guy is still grabbing those headlines and stuff. And so I think that he was there 5 or 6 years, I believe, before Bill Curry came in I think 1987. So yeah, difficult thing to do, but just thoughts and prayers for his family and his passing yesterday. So moving on to a few other points of news here in the SEC. LSU, they self-impose a bowl ban on themselves after some improper booster payments going out to some players or players' parents. Don't exactly know all the ins and outs there.
I know one in was OBJ on the sideline handing out $100 bills. Okay, you got cameras that have captured you handing out money. Yeah, obviously that's going to be an issue. So
yeah, I've seen some of the tapes around that. I think that was a substance decision. I think that they were celebrating really hard for them winning the national championship, and I think that he had tossed back a few. So I think that his decision-making ability was impaired. That he may have not made that decision on a sober day, but it was definitely not. It was a time of celebration,
Yeah.
So some of those decisions were not the best.
So, and you brought this up before we got started. Good on LSU for banning themselves from a bowl when they're not that good. Now, anybody's eligible for a bowl, but at this point, who wants to invite a Tennessee? Who wants to invite an LSU? Because it's not going to be a good product. So the thing is, SEC fans generally travel well. So if you get them, like when Georgia played in the Rose Bowl for the college playoffs a couple years ago, it worked out well because my father-in-law being one of them, Georgia fans made the trip to Pasadena. They'll go anywhere in the country to watch their teams play.
Yeah, true. But in a year where you can't travel to the degree that you're used to, then what's the draw to bring in those teams?
The draw is a good product because you want people to tune in to the
Advertising
TV.
Dollars.
Yeah,
exactly.
And Tennessee and LSU isn't going to create much of a good product. So it's like this. A teenager wrecks their car, not totaled, but it needs work. So they go up to their parents and say, you know what? I wrecked my car. Here are my keys. I'm going to self-impose a grounding. I'm not going to drive for 4 weeks. It's like, well, that's great because your car's in the shop for the next 6 weeks. So that punishment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It is ironic to me, and which may lead to our next point of conversation in the SEC, that some decisions are made and you kind of scratch your head as the reason why people make those decisions, kind of like what Lane Kiffin did a few weeks ago with talking about COVID players. But yeah, you're right. Do you think that LSU would have done the right thing on en route to a 15-0 season and a national championship with Joe Burrow winning the Heisman? Would they have imposed that bowl ban this time last year? I don't think so. But when you're 3-5,
if they thought that they may lose,
to say maybe I won't do it.
Yeah, if they thought they may lose in a boat, just get boat raced by Clemson. I apologize for bringing this up, as Alabama did the year before. Maybe it is, you know what? We're going to self-impose a bowl ban, and we're just going to UCF this and claim a national championship. Not a bad idea. But yeah, interesting you bring up Ole Miss, because just a few weeks ago, Lane Kiffin saying, well, I don't get it. I think they're just making excuses so they don't have to play a game. We haven't had any COVID issues.
Yeah.
Is this the Madden curse? Is this the Lane curse? Because now their game against Texas A&M is postponed because of what?
COVID issues. Yes. Yeah. Not Texas A&M this time. It's Ole Miss. Yeah.
Is it really COVID, Lane Kiffin? Is it really, or do you just not want to play Texas A&M, whose stock is rising and rising fast?
Right. Yeah. It is interesting when you put it in that perspective, how you have to look at everything through a lens of why certain decisions are made. And then if you are bold enough, like Lane Kiffin often is, to say something like that in public, then there opens the opportunity for that same argument to be used in your, not in your defense, but kind of to prosecute you, to say like, now why are you not playing this game, so to speak. So interesting that, again, he said a few weeks ago when that one game was postponed that he was worried coming back from, I think it was a fall break situation, that his players would not be able to play because of COVID issues, but they all came back negative and had zero issues on Ole Miss's team. But now I don't know if it's a spoke too soon or a shoot yourself in the foot or whatever cliche you want to use, but now Ole Miss is not going to be able to play because of COVID testing and tracing situations. So
yeah, maybe the new cliche is kissing the COVID infectee, which apparently is not that easy for me to say. I think you've had teams like Alabama, like Tennessee, like Ole Miss, where the coaches are really. I think Lane, although he likes to have fun more than I think he likes to have more fun than a Nick Saban and Jeremy Pruitt or Kirby Smart
combined. Yeah, all three of those combined.
Yeah, combined. But he does. I think he does have this business mentality of
sure.
Let's go do the work. If we do it well, we'll have fun. I don't think the other coaches necessarily say if we do it well, we'll have fun. But I kind of see these coaches, and I don't think any of them have had real COVID issues. Like I know Tennessee has not had to postpone any games. I'm pretty sure Alabama hasn't had to postpone any games because of what they've done. This is Ole Miss's first, and I don't think Georgia has had any either. But these coaches say, look, this is our culture, and this is how it's going to be. And I think a lot of that culture is this year we're going to protect ourselves. And we're not going to go to Halloween parties or fall break parties. To stay healthy, you kind of have to just keep a buffer between you and everybody else. And I think they've done a really good job.
Yeah. Good point. It was Halloween that I remember that, it was kind of the perfect scenario. Full moon outside. Halloween fell on a Saturday. Or maybe a Friday night or something. And so it was like the perfect, I can remember people talking a year ago or 2 years ago of like Halloween 2020, that's going to be when the real party happens. And then COVID happens. And so then 2020 Halloween really doesn't happen. So but college athletes and college students in general want to go and have fun and sow some oats. And so they're going to maybe be the ones at the tip of the spear when it comes to COVID-related issues around gathering too tightly and partying regardless of what the old folks tell them to do. So,
you know what's interesting? Lane Kiffin has been a head coach in the SEC for 2 seasons. Both of those seasons, Halloween fell on a Saturday night because when he was at Tennessee.
Look at your memory, man. Yeah.
Well, so I went to this game. Tennessee played South Carolina on Halloween at night in Neyland Stadium, 2009. I went, there was talk of, is Tennessee going to wear black uniforms? Because
like a Christmas, Halloween thing. Yeah.
You've brought in Lane Kiffin, who's a little more progressive. Oregon's different uniforms every week for 10 years thing is still in full swing. And okay, what's going to happen? Well, they come out and they practice in orange uniforms. And my buddy who's sitting next to me says, man, I was really hoping for the black uniforms. I said, Georgia, when they wore their black uniforms, they warmed up in reds. And then when they come back out on the field, they literally rip off their red jerseys to black ones underneath. And I remember being at one end of the stadium, opposite of where the team runs in through the tee. And the cool thing about the orange jerseys is when they're lined up in the tunnel, I mean, it kind of glows. You don't really, can't really tell, but there's just this orange glow. Well, there wasn't that glow, but you could see the white helmets bobbing up and down. And then kind of like the wave, it was just, you just heard it go all around the stadium, just the cheering, because they're wearing, now they didn't look that great, but they were wearing black jerseys and they run out on the field. And it was just such a cool experience being there. But then this year also, Lane Kiffin's head coach at Ole Miss when Halloween falls on a Saturday in SEC country. So just interesting little tidbit there about Lane Kiffin. 2 years in the SEC as a head coach. Both years, Halloween has fallen on a Saturday.
I like that. You should trademark that look. It's like right before a Tennessee game starts, when everybody feels really good and a lot of excitement because the game is about to start. And then you see the team in the tunnel and you can see that Tennessee glow. You could trademark Tennessee glow, that feeling right before the game when everything's kind of glowy and vibrating, or call it the Tennessee sunrise or something like that. And then we'll make a cocktail based on it too.
Oh yeah. I need some Tennessee glow because I don't know what it would take for me to actually feel good about a win against Vandy this weekend.
Yeah.
100-0 maybe. But I don't know.
Well, maybe it's just the Tennessee glow is what the Vols fans are missing right now, and so
we need to restore
trending that.
Yeah.
Yep, trending that would like restore that sense of excitement, reinvigorate that pumped up vibe that all Tennessee volunteer fans need.
Absolutely.
Well, moving on,
we can help. We can hope. Yeah. Well, yeah. Let's move away from the Tennessee. They're smoky gray uniforms, but it's kind of like the I don't know, Debbie Downer gray uniforms now.
Well, we'll go on to a few other points. Just a quick smattering of last week. The games, except for Vandy, Georgia, we had a full slate of games. But there wasn't a lot that really stood out as far as anything that was different than what kind of most people expected. Alabama really handed it to LSU. Texas A&M won pretty handedly against Auburn by 11. Missouri, Arkansas, that was a really fun game, but Missouri ended up taking that one.
98 points scored in Missouri, Arkansas.
Yeah. And then the previously mentioned Florida-Tennessee game was about what we expected. And then Kentucky taking down South Carolina handedly by 23 points, it looks like. So quite the is from what we were talking about this time last week. It's kind of what happened during all of the games. So moving on to this week and looking at some games now, we realized something in our Pick'em League, which was the CBS Sports app that we've been using. They ended after the NCAA Week 14. Now, I don't know why they decided to do this with everybody, with all of the schedules getting thrown around, but that ends our ability to do the TSIO Pick'em League within the application. But we're still going to make our picks. We're still going to give our opinions about what's going to happen, even though we may need to figure out what's going on with the CBS app. But,
I know what happened. CBS is mad because once again, their CBS Game of the Week is the one that gets postponed. They're mad. I don't know what kind of revenue losses they've had, but it has to be significant from these missed games. Now,
I think what this is going to be either 3 or 4 weeks that they don't get their CBS Game of the Week. Now, last week they packed 2 on top of each other and had 2 right in a row, which was nice.
They double dipped.
But 3 or 4 weeks, that's a lot of advertising revenue that they're not seeing.
Yeah. So we'll just have to do this on our own. We'll just talk about it. So Chris, let's go through our pick'ems for this week.
Yes, let's do
it. We got a couple of our breakfast brunch tailgates. Our hash brown casserole games of the week. We got 3 of them. We got Georgia, Missouri, or 2 of them, sorry. Georgia, Missouri, and Alabama, Arkansas. First, let's go with Georgia, Missouri. Why am I not seeing the lines now?
Yeah, I'm seeing an over under. I'm seeing several things, but not the lines themselves.
This is one of those great things about going live is everything changes. UGA by 13.
Okay.
UGA by
here he goes. Yeah.
UGA by 13 over Missouri. Chris, how do you feel about this line?
I know that Georgia didn't have the season that they wanted to. And they're currently in the top 10, but in a world where you ain't nothing if you're not in the playoffs sort of thing. I know that that's a hard pill to swallow, being 9th in the rankings there. But I still think they're showing a lot of promise now, that it seems like their quarterback issues are at least handled for the moment. So I think that they take this 13 points easily. What about you?
I do too. I agree. I think they found their quarterback. I'm guessing he's a senior, but it doesn't count this year. Will he come back? I don't know. If you have the opportunity to come back and play a whole season the way he's played these last couple games, raise that draft stock, it may be worth a couple $1 million.
Interesting though, like in a year where everything is all up in the air, the eligibility doesn't even matter. Anybody's eligible for a bowl game. It's like, this is nuts.
Yeah, it is a free for all, but I'm also going to go with Georgia and the points in this one. Then we also have kicking off at 11, Alabama at Arkansas. We got the Wild Hogs hosting the Gulf Boogie Borden Elephants Pachyderms from Tuscaloosa. That line is 32 in favor of Alabama. So, Chris, Arkansas just put up 48 points on Missouri. Do you think they can keep it within 32 with Alabama? This is right there at that 30-point line that you've been you've had mixed emotions about it this year.
It's just over my criteria. But both times that I have picked against Alabama because of that criteria, I have lost. So do I do that against an Arkansas team that, although only 3-6 on the season, they've showed a lot of promise this year. Also, Alabama, as much as Nick Saban talks a lot about, we are only going to look at this game that's right in front of us, and it's part of the process. And let's celebrate for the next 15 minutes that we just won this game by 30 points. But then we have to get down to serious mode again and get in bed before 9 p.m. so we can concentrate on the next game. Although he always says all these things, kind of what I was alluding to earlier with player mentality and that headspace that you're in. When you're already looking forward to playing LSU in just 7 days after this Arkansas game, are you really going to get up hardcore to play Arkansas when, if you're playing 90-0, are you going to risk injury? Are you going to risk just wearing yourself out when you really need to bring it during the SEC championship game? All that being said, I've picked another team other than Alabama, and then Alabama show me that they're going to play regardless. So all of the arguments that I just said, I'm going to throw out the window. And as a fan, I'm just going to say, heck yeah, my Crimson Tide are going to win by 32 and choose the Bama boys riding those boogie boards in the Gulf of Mexico.
Those boogie board and pachyderms. Well, I do think that it's going to be a little bit like the NBA or the NFL last week. Okay, let's get up by a lot and then let's rest our players. So I'm going with Arkansas, but I still see Alabama winning by 31, maybe 31 and a half. I see Alabama winning by 31 and a half, but not 32.
Smart.
Just some late surges from Arkansas. They've got a veteran QB, Felipe Franks, who can pull them back in there at the end. But it's going to be too little too late. So I'm going with Arkansas in that one. Then no CBS game. So we're looking at Tennessee Vanderbilt at 3:00. My 2-6 Volunteers against the 0-8 Commodores.
Undermanned Commodores.
Commodores. Yeah.
Yeah. In our search to find cool nicknames or fun nicknames, at least something that you and I can laugh at. I keep wanting to call the Vanderbilt the commies, but then just because of the implications of what a commie is to most of the world, I can't bring myself to say it. So as much as I want to call them, maybe we can call them the Commodores.
We can call them the anchors because they're pretty sunk. Tennessee here is a 15-point favorite. Oof. This is hard. You know what? I'm going to go with Tennessee. And here's why. I think Harrison Bailey got some confidence. I will say, I don't want to see another quarterback play in this game unless there's an injury other than Harrison Bailey. Last week, I don't know why Bailey was pulled. It didn't make sense. I think the QB depth chart right now should be Bailey, Shrout, who played well in relief of Bailey, Maher. I think he's bearing Garantano, but he hasn't been that great, and he's been a little injury prone. And then just shut it down for Garantano. He had his chance. He had 4 years plus a redshirt season. It hadn't worked out. So I think he's fourth on depth chart. But I think Harrison Bailey goes in, feels confident, and wins by 2 touchdowns and a field goal.
It's funny, Garantano, I've heard that name, and it's been synonymous with Tennessee balls for so long. I'm like, was there a quarterback between Peyton Manning and Jarrett Garantano? I don't think so. He's been there forever.
One, Josh Dobbs.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Oh, I miss old Josh Dobbs.
All space Dobbs. Yeah. So Chris, how are you feeling Tennessee, the 15-point favorite over the Commodores?
Well, interesting. I have a little bit, well, at least a point of argument, not necessarily disagreeing with what you said, but actually supporting maybe what the Tennessee coaching staff was doing last week. I thought maybe you don't have a big chance of beating the number 6 team in the country that are locking up the SEC East with playing the Gators. Why not give our other guy, who's probably number 2 on the depth chart at this point, let's give him some big game experience to like get in a big game where you're playing the Florida Gators, to see if you can toss it around, work out some of those nerves, to know what it feels like to play in that big game. So again, one of these coaching ideas of looking toward the future. If we can't win today, or if we're winning by a lot, let's give the other guys some experience, sort of thing. So maybe that's what was going on. And I think it could benefit, it could just benefit depth charts in the future to know that, your number 1 and number 2 guy may have that kind of experience. But I'm gonna pick Tennessee here. Again, I don't know that Vanderbilt, other than trying to get their kicker to get in field goal range, they have a lot to play for this year. So it'd kind of be interesting to see that storyline play out and get what's her name on the field, Sarah.
Yeah.
I forget her last name off the top of my head, but maybe I can't see a lot that they're having to play for right now. They don't have a new coach announced or anybody that I've heard of in the rumor mill. So not a lot to play for. And
I thought they were bringing back James Franklin. Doesn't he want to leave his post at Penn State?
After the Penn State year, I could see at least where the argument begins to come into play. But yeah, but I think Tennessee takes this one. I think that they win by a couple of touchdowns. Not a lot of confidence when it comes to the quarterback play as far as looking back through the whole season. But what I saw just playing against the Florida Gators, that showed some signs of life there that I think would be interesting to watch and see if they can blossom and put some points up on the board. Yeah. So I think they will.
Well, then it brings us to our virtual tailgate first game of the night. Florida and LSU, Florida being a 23-point favorite. So if you want to watch this game with us, join our virtual tailgate over at thirdsaturdayiNoctober.com. But Chris, where are you leaning in this Florida LSU matchup where Florida is favored by 23?
After seeing what Alabama was able to do against LSU last week, LSU was able to score, and they were able to get a couple of field goals and actually a couple of nice long passing runs. They have some signs of life there, but with Kyle Trask being the general for the Florida Gators, I can't see that. And with just a week or so left before the SEC championship game and the final thing that people will see before they vote for Heisman, I think that he's going to want to go off. And I think he has the ability to go off with what I saw that Alabama was able to do and kind of get in there on the Bayou Bengals. So I'm going to say that Florida takes this one. What about you?
Yeah, I'm going with Florida in the points here. I think Kyle Trask probably has a bad taste in his mouth, even though they won at Tennessee. His fourth quarter was not good. And so a couple 3-and-outs, not moving the ball. I think he probably wants to come out and really solidify, hey, we deserve to be in the SEC championship. I deserve to be the Heisman front runner. Even though he says, team first, he still wants to prove that he and his team are that legitimate. So I think they get a huge lead and never look back, and LSU just can't keep up. So I think Florida wins by more than 23. And then finally, we have the War Eagles and the Air Raid Pirates, the deflated Air Raid Pirates. At 6:30, we've got Auburn, just a 6.5 point favorite.
I think that's a smart line because I think that Auburn has a ton of potential, but with a 5-4 record, obviously it hasn't been the season that Gus Malzahn would have wanted. But it's certainly not been the season that Mike Leach wanted, even though they have looked better over the last week or two. But I still think that Auburn is able to take this, and I'm going to take the points in Auburn.
Yeah, it's tough because I feel like we've talked about this even before our podcast started over the years. You never know what you're going to get with Auburn.
Yeah,
I think a lot of fans would admit that too. I'm hoping that Auburn can win by more than a touchdown. So I'm going to go with Auburn on this as well. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, hopefully the War Eagles can pull it out. But that, that's going to do it for week 15. Well, I guess it's week 10 because of the bye week. Week 10 in the SEC. Chris, we do some voting on Twitter. And what did we talk about last week? Hot beverages?
Hot beverages, yes. Hot weather beverages. Cold weather beverages.
Cold, yeah.
I.e. Hot items. And so last week on the TSIO Top of the Tailgate Tournament of Treats, we had cold weather beverages. I'm going to get it right one of these times, which were hot chocolate, a hot toddy, hot apple cider, and coffee. Now, coffee is assumed to be hot for the most part, but it was the only one in the listing that didn't specifically say hot, because I know you can get cold coffee. So hot chocolate,
get that toddy, stuff out of here. Look,
hot cider.
I'm one to talk. I don't drink coffee. I don't know that I've ever had coffee.
Fascinating.
Iced coffee.
Yeah. So you're saying that I've had more coffee today than you've had in your entire life?
Yeah.
Wow.
I may have tasted coffee, but I don't like the smell of it. I'm not. It's not like ew, but I smell it. It's not like some people just feel so good when they smell coffee. I'm like, whatever. It just smells like nearly burnt stuff. So get that out of here.
Well, with that, and speaking of cold coffee, would you do a coffee flavored ice cream?
I don't think so.
Gotcha.
I think I've tried it. Now here's the thing. I do like a Guinness, a stout, a darker beer, and a lot of those have hints of coffee. But I feel like there's other stuff in it too. I don't know.
Yeah.
If I'm gonna have an iced coffee, it better be a beer. I'll put it that way.
Gotcha. Duly noted.
So who won last week?
Last week, Hot Toddy, or as we like to say in the SEC, a Hottie Toddy, took it down. And you know what? It was my choice as well. And I will tell you the reason that I chose that over probably, again, I'm trying to take into consideration the context in which we're doing, which is tailgate foods and beverages, not necessarily what I would prefer day in and day out, because I have coffee every morning, sometimes in the afternoon if I'm feeling froggy or if I'm feeling low on energy. But I wouldn't choose to have that be my cold weather beverage if I'm at a tailgate, because one, if hot chocolate's there, hot chocolate's delicious around a tailgate, around a campfire. I would always choose it in those situations.
Okay, here's a question.
Hot toddy, yeah.
Do you make your hot chocolate with water or milk?
I've done both. And I recently read an article that's saying a secret to good hot chocolate is the water, which blew my mind, because when I moved to milk, I'm like, it's nicer, it's creamier. And so that's what that article said, but maybe they're just trying to get me to drink less milk in my day. So, but I prefer probably the milk version.
Did you read that on PETA.org or something?
Probably so.
Yeah, I'm all about the milk in
There it is.
in the hot chocolate. And
Yeah.
I'm not talking about the skim stuff. Now I've got a 1-year-old,
Full fat.
so we've got whole milk in the house, and I actually prefer that even to 2%. But my wife's like, I need something less. So she drinks oat milk or something. But I'm dipping into the kids' whole milk. It's like, give me that for my cereal, for my hot chocolate. That's what I want.
Okay, so the addition, a quick question back to you is marshmallows in your milk version of hot chocolate?
Yeah. I don't have to have marshmallows, but I'll take them.
Yeah. I'm like, I can do hot chocolate without the marshmallows, but the whole time I'm drinking hot chocolate without the marshmallows, I'm thinking this would be better with a marshmallow. At least one big one or several of the little minis.
Yeah.
But our winner this week was the hot toddy, which again, my choice as well because of the addition. Much like the marshmallow, if you're at a tailgate, the addition of the alcohol just makes the evening that much better, regardless of if you won or lost during the day in the football game.
And you know what? Here's the downside to the hot chocolate for me. My teeth get really furry after one hot chocolate.
That's true. You
know what I'm saying? Especially if I do the mound of marshmallows. If I'm tipping the bag over and it kind of oops. I mean it's like, I don't want that. And then I'm needing to drink water and swish it around and try to at least get my teeth not furry. So that is one strike against the hot chocolate. But I agree. Hottie toddy, my drink of choice.
Yeah. Okay. So that was last week, and it looks like that we're in lockstep in that decision. What about this week? I think that instead of having a 4-choice designed thing this week for the TSIO Top of the Tailgate Tournament of Treats, it's more of a preference, more of a question. So Bradley, without further ado, what is on the TSIO Quintuple T for this week?
So a few weeks ago, we did talk about pies.
Mm-hmm.
And is cheesecake a pie? Well, I've got an even bigger question. Does dessert deserve a spot at the table at a tailgate? Because as I think back to a lot of the tailgates that I've attended, I don't remember a whole lot of brownies or cookies or even pies. So we need to decide, is dessert a tailgate food? Yes or no? That is going to be on the Twitter at TSIO Pod. So go vote. You've got the whole week to vote. Let us know, should desserts be included at a tailgate?
I like that. Are desserts deserving of a place at the table on the tailgate?
How's that for alliteration for you?
I love it. Love it.
So we know what time it is. Chris, you were fumbling over your words earlier, but I'm going to let you take a shot at it. What time is
it? See, I even fumbled over that.
Oh, you're so ready. You just can't contain it.
It's like when you're on the track team and you keep faulting because you haven't heard the gun go off, but you're so ready to run that race. So Let's try it again. I faulted. Here we go. I'm just like stumbling over my words, but I'm ready to go.
So, Chris, what time is it?
It's time to pregame, baby.
Tailgate, man cave, living room, pregame, burgers, ribs, chicken wing, chip and dip, pregame, scotch and a lot of IPA, Coca-Cola, pregame, slaying darts, EA, cornhole, pregame. How you gonna watch?
Oh, that may be the best one ever. So, Chris, how are you watching the game this week?
Well, I think I'm going to watch it with my boys. And what I mean by that is on our virtual tailgate, sitting on my nice new wraparound couch, watching my nice new big screen TV and my nice new set of friends that I get every Saturday night on my iPad so I can watch and chat and hang with you guys. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm probably going to have a beverage of choice in hand because it's getting close to the end of the season and I'm getting sad. And so it's going to either, I hope it doesn't depress me. I hope it ups my mood a little bit by having a little mixed drink, a little cocktail and then hanging with you guys. That's what I'm going to do. What about you?
I love it. Well, a little shameless plug. My wife and I are doing an online concert, little Christmas concert Friday night.
Nice.
So probably just laying low around the house. Got our Christmas decorations up last weekend. So pretty set there. So I think I'm just going to be kicking it at home.
Good for you.
You know, I think that's just 2020. You're going to be watching at home because it's not real safe to go watch it at a bar. It's, debatable, but hey, it's not as safe as being at home. I'm not going to be watching it on a projector in the backyard with 100 of my best friends. And
Right.
I don't feel like it's my place to be at the stadium. So I'm going to be watching at home, probably in my sweatpants, if not sweatpants, shorts, because it's always shorts weather if you ask me. But just at home with the kid, the family. So, I mean, I can't really complain about that though. It sounds like a great weekend. I will also be at that virtual tailgate, which will kick off around 6:00. Come say hey, hang out for a couple minutes, or stick around until the last game is done. Whether that's the Alabama game, or heck, sometimes if we get bored, we'll just turn on one of those Pac-12 late night games. We'll see how we fare. So join us at the virtual tailgate by going to thirdsaturdayiNoctober.com to sign up. You can also find links to all our social media. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at TSIO Pod. You can find us on YouTube where we broadcast the podcast.
Broadcast the podcast.
Yes, sir. While you're on our website, you can also get our Tailgating 101 cheat sheet, because who doesn't like cheating, especially when it's tailgate? We will tell you that probably dessert deserves to be at the table. Maybe.
Ooh, tip in your hat, my friend.
Yeah. I'm showing my hand a little bit, but it's been a weird, but a great season. I know, coming from a Tennessee fan in SEC country. How's it going to end? We got a couple weeks left. We'll see how the playoffs work out. So with that being said, Chris, I'd like to wish you a Merry Christmas and roll Vols.
Merry Christmas right back at you, sir, and roll balls, baby.